Hi, my name is Jared Cohen. I'm the director of the Scart Institute for Energy Innovation, and we're delighted to have you here for the beginning of Energy Week. This is what happens when you hold an event that starts the day after spring break. This is about wake-up time for, I think, about 90% of the student body after spring break. In fact, we've had a wonderful response to Energy Week. We're expecting over 500 people during the course of the week, but it's a late arriving crowd. But we will start. We have a schedule. We're very, very pleased that we have with us today the president of Carnegie Mellon University, Subra Suresh. President Suresh is in his third year as president. He came to us after an academic career at Brown and MIT, and after having served as director of the National Science Foundation. He is one of the most successful academics alive. There are many ways to measure this, but he's one of the very few people in the world ever to have been elected to all three academies, the Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and the Academy of Medicine. We're so lucky to have President Suresh as our leader, and so lucky to have him here today to officially open Energy Week. President Suresh.
Thank you, Jerry. Welcome to I think it's the first event of the Scart Institute, first official formal event of the Scart Institute. So let me start by offering my congratulations and thanks to Jerry, who after 16 great years as president of Carnegie Mellon, took a brief time off, and he calls that a vacation, and I don't. He was still working, I know, and then agreed to take on leadership of the Scart Institute. So I want to start by thanking Jerry for not only your previous role, but your current role, and welcome all of you to this Energy Week. The Energy Week symbolizes many different things, and different people look at it in very different ways, just like the field of energy itself, from policy to technology to practice to regulations to funding to global change, rising sea levels. When you think of energy, there are so many things that go through your mind. When I think of energy, I just cannot help think about two life experiences that I had, and reflecting back just in the last 5 years. Standing on the South Pole, the geographic South Pole as opposed to the magnetic South Pole, just before the week of Thanksgiving in 2011, and looking at all the changes that had taken place in the planet, exactly at the southern end of the planet, looking at what changes have been created in the energy landscape, rising sea levels, penguin population, migration of different species, etc., etc. You cannot think about energy as being right in the core of a variety of conversations that one will have. Just a few months before that trip, I had the good fortune to go to the Arctic Circle and stand at the highest point of the Arctic Circle. And in fact, one of the planes that took us there from the 109th Airborne in Albany, New York, they flew us over a glacier called the Jakobshavn Glacier in Greenland, in the north-central Greenland. And the pilot who's been flying there from Albany, New York for the last 20 years or so said, "Do you see that glacier over there? That used to go another few tens of miles just 10, 15 years ago." And so you can look at energy from very different vantage points. One of the energy also creates crisis. For me, in my previous job, it created a crisis in the sense that when the Swedish icebreaker called Odin, which is owned by the Swedish government, it was decided by the Swedish government to reroute it from the Antarctic to the Arctic. We faced the real possibility within a span of 2 months of cutting down supplies to Antarctica, where scientists had done experiments for 20 years. Those experiments would have come to a screeching halt. So these kinds of policy decisions related to energy practices, etc., have huge implications in day-to-day lives. So energy is very much at the nexus of technology on the one hand, human behavior, human condition, human aspirations, policies, and of course, government regulations, bureaucracy, and all of this combined. And that's what makes it such a rich topic. That's what makes it such an exciting topic. And Carnegie Mellon has so much to offer. Under Jerry's leadership, plans began many years ago to create the Scart Institute for Energy Innovation, which officially will open on the 30th of April on this campus. It brings together members of our community in new and unique ways, and I invite all of you to come and join. There are at least 3 major overarching goals of what the Scart Institute, which Jerry now directs, co-directs. There are 3 overarching goals. Using and delivering energy we already have much more efficiently. That's one of the goals. Expanding the mix of clean, reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy. That's another goal. A third is creating innovations in energy technologies, regulations, and policies. So all of these are extremely critical. They play a huge role in how well we do moving forward. There are 35 different centers at Carnegie Mellon University that deal with the topic of energy across many disciplinary boundaries. Many faculty, and you're going to hear many of them, in addition to policymakers coming from outside, who play a pivotal role in research, technology creation, spin-out companies, and creation of policies and practices that will have far-reaching global consequences. But technology is just one part of it. How humans interact with the technology, how humans use the technology, and especially how humans abuse the technology, either intentionally or unintentionally, will have a huge impact. And the conversations around energy are right in the middle of those kinds of effects. Let me just take and finish with one example. About a month and a half ago, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, the theme this year was the 4th Industrial Revolution. So in the second half of the 18th century, we had the first Industrial Revolution. The second half of the 19th century, we had the second Industrial Revolution, which was created by electricity and other kinds of technologies. In the second half of the 20th century, we had the third Industrial Revolution, which essentially dealt with the creation of internet, the global interconnectedness, etc. The fourth Industrial Revolution involves cyber-physical systems. It's very different from the 3 previous industrial revolutions, at least in one sense. In the fourth Industrial Revolution, which we are in the middle of, we have an individual citizen of a world, whether he or she lives in a developing country or a developed country, can participate in a two-way exchange in the Industrial Revolution through mobile technology. They can enable cyber-physical systems remotely. They can disable them remotely. They can tap into the data. They can contribute data. And the pace with which they access the fourth Industrial Revolution is much faster than the three previous industrial revolutions, which is remarkable. So this was the focus. So there are a lot of sweet spots of the fourth industrial revolution where Carnegie Mellon University has been a pioneer, including the computing and computer science that enabled the fourth industrial revolution. Many topics that deal with artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity, cyber-physical systems, issues of privacy, policy, confidentiality, etc., etc. CMU has played a pivotal role for many, many decades. So it is only to be expected that CMU will be right at the epicenter of the fourth industrial revolution. And that's not all. CMU has many more things to contribute with respect to whether we succeed or fall short of our own expectations in the fourth industrial revolution. For every technology we have, humans will use them and abuse them, and energy is no different. Policies, regulations, including taxation policies, play a huge role. And I think Carnegie Mellon has distinguished itself in fostering and furthering conversation related to all parts of, all aspects of energy. I think we are very fortunate to have this Energy Week. I want to thank Jerry and all the colleagues from the Scart Institute for leading the conversation this week. We have a number of leaders from many different sectors, private sector, public sector, who are here on campus, including, I just had lunch with the Premier of South Australia, who will be giving a keynote tomorrow morning. And the angle, through the lens through which people look at the energy conversation varies so widely. And I think we have a unique opportunity this week to take all of the discussions that will happen in this forum and then try to see how we can optimize Carnegie Mellon University's contributions, not only to the national conversation, but to the global conversation. So I want to thank Jerry for leading this effort. I want to thank all of you for coming here. And I very much look forward to seeing how the Scart Institute will play a pivotal role in the years to come in not only fostering conversation on issues related to energy from many different perspectives, but also shaping the policies and practices that will emerge out of this. I wish you a very good week. And before I leave, I also want to express a special note of thanks to Jerry for assuming this very important role for Carnegie Mellon University soon after stepping down from 16 years of being president of Carnegie Mellon. Thank you, Jerry. And thank you all for coming.
I'm going to build on what President Suresh just presented to tell you a little bit more about the Scart Institute, which was launched just within the last few years, started within the last few years, and is now really starting to hit its stride. The leadership includes not only myself, but Andy Gelman, our colleague from chemical engineering, who is the co-director, Debbie Stein, the associate director, and Julianne Fehrenbach, our program manager. I do want to take this moment, because it might be the only chance I have, to thank Debbie in particular for this Energy Week. She conceived of this, she organized it, she's sweated over every aspect of it. She still is. She's doing it right now as I talk. Thank you, Debbie. I know it's going to be a great week, and I appreciate everything you did to make it possible. Our mission includes research and education, as well as technology commercialization and outreach, which is often a word that sort of is thrown away, is a throwaway word. We take this very seriously and see it as an important part of what we do, and that's what this week is all about. We chose 5 areas to focus on, which I'll say more about in a moment. Within research, our activities take 2 forms. One is through seed grants, which we've been doing now for 4 years. These are grants in the $50,000 to $75,000 range, which allows groups of faculty to generate early results that they can then parlay into external support for their research. Education, outreach, and technology commercialization. I will admit that in the early years of the Scart Institute, our focus has been very much on research, but we're now turning our attention to these other parts of our mission. Our strategic investments, we chose with the university's strengths in mind, which we want to leverage as much as we can, as well as taking into account where we are. Being mindful of the fact they're in Western Pennsylvania, an energy center in various ways. How can we combine those 2 things to have maximum impact on the energy system? And we think about what Carnegie Mellon is good at, strong at. None of this should surprise you. You hear this all the time if you're at Carnegie Mellon. The systems approach we take to problem solving, our ability to collaborate across disciplines, our entrepreneurial and innovative nature, and our location, as I already mentioned. So the 5 areas are these, and you'll be hearing more about these in the course of today and this week. And in each of the 5, we're still developing what specifically we, as an institute, will be investing in. And that's what we mean by these priority areas in our strategic investments. We will take the resources of the institute and devote them primarily to faculty and student activity in these 5 areas, the specifics of which are still being developed. Let me just add here that something I should have said at the outset. We exist and we have resources because of the generosity of the Scott family, in particular Sherman and Joyce Scott, 2 alumni of Carnegie Mellon, as well as the Richard King Mellon Foundation. Both the family and the foundation made significant gifts to the university to make this possible. I mentioned seed grants. This gives you a little bit of sense of what this program has looked like over the last 4 years. We award 6 to 9 proposals each year. It's usually more like 8 or 7, and you can see the kinds of money involved. It also shows you the strong demand among Carnegie Mellon faculty for seed grant support. We can only support about 1/4 of the proposals we get, and we believe actually they're almost all worthy of support. If you can read that, I congratulate you. And it's just to give you an idea of the range of topics and departments and schools that we invest in with our seed grants. So you can see we go from the social and cultural impact of energy in our Dietrich College of Humanities and Social Sciences to, take your pick, quantum dot-based solid state lighting in material science and engineering. I did mention that that's not all that we do, but I also mentioned we're just getting around now to organizing ourselves for the purpose of industrial relations and further fundraising, as well as technology commercialization. We're in the process, in fact, of hiring a new associate director of the Institute for partnerships. This will be a person who focuses on industrial relations, but not just industry, also partnerships with other kinds of organizations. And technology commercialization will be part of that person's portfolio. It will also be partnering with other of our existing technology commercialization offices on campus to get that going in energy. And outreach, which I mentioned to you, is very important to us. We think of this as really coming in 2 forms. One is internal outreach. You know, I've said to some of you that if I were king for a day, forget president for a day, that wouldn't get it done. You have to be king for a day, or I could lock 100 of the faculty into a room and throw away the key until they came up with the solution to everything. We could solve the world's energy problems in a day or two. The big problem, of course, is getting the people in a room together for a day. It's a very hard thing to do, not because you don't like each other or that we're not collaborative. We do, and we are. But the problem is you work at 150% rate. Everybody's so busy that to find the time to have that meeting in order to plot some new collaborative effort, that's the difficult part. We see that as a very important role for the Scart Institute, this sort of internal convening that we do through weekly luncheons that we've started to get groups of faculty together, to more formal events like distinguished lecture series, et cetera. Part of it also, though, is supporting the university's own energy and environmental practices, which we're very pleased to do. And one of the new things that we're very pleased about is Scotty Goes Green for student living. That's the new part, the student living part, with a focus on our dorms, et cetera. We're very supportive of this, and I'm guessing, Barb, you had everything to do with this. So way to go, Barb. Good luck with that. The other part of outreach, though, is external, which is also a very important part of what we do. So this is raising the visibility of the Scart Institute externally, but more importantly, Carnegie Mellon's energy activities externally. And we do this in many ways, all of which came out of the brain of Debbie Stein, and with the help of Courtney and others, has been put into practice. I want to also point out, I see Michael Bartley in the house. We got a big break. We were able to snatch him away from a local TV station, and Michael's been working with us for the last several months as a consultant, helping us develop further our outreach activities, including Energy Week. He's done a great job, and we're very appreciative of that. So this takes many forms: our regular newsletter, policymaker guides that we've developed, and various events, including and especially this first ever Energy Week. I do want to underscore our videos, which I think are very cool. Some of the faculty who have appeared in these short videos are with us today. The audience for these videos is the public. So the idea is to make more accessible, complicated energy topics through these very neat videos. Look at our website in order to learn more. We at the Scart Institute are very pleased to have launched Energy Week. We see it as our coming out, in a way, as others have characterized it. I think you'll see even more momentum to the Scart Institute's activity and Carnegie Mellon's energy activities in the weeks, months, and years to come. Thank you very much for being here and for your support. That's an applause line.